All right, nerds, we are back for another supplemental. This one's going to be a little bit different than the last two because we're closer to where we should be as far as proper episodes are concerned, but this week we're still without a proper episode. So this one's going to be kind of a mishmash of style. It's going to feel a little bit like a live episode, even though I'm definitely not broadcasting live, because we're going to read a couple of articles, but nothing too extensive. We're going to talk about a couple of things that have happened. I went and saw Thunderbolts. A couple of other things. New trailers have come out. Some tours have been announced. It's going to be just kind of all over the place. So, that being said, okay, so let me collect my thoughts real quick because I had to write them down. Again, it's something different this week than previous weeks because previous weeks was just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and this one is a little more organized. So, let's start with announcements, I guess. First and foremost, let's actually pull this up. We're gonna, like I said, we're doing things a little differently. We're going to this screen, and then from that screen we go. Oh, where did the information go? Is it here? So, announced just in the last couple of days. Oh, that's right. I have a YouTube thing for this, don't I? Shush. Make sure everything is muted. So we have the official announcement of a new Mudvayne tour, Mudvayne and Static X with Vended opening up. Super excited for this. This is going to be huge. Yes, okay, we are still muted. Good deal. This is going to be incredibly fun. Tours start, the dates start this fall. It is the 25th anniversary of LD50, which makes me feel super old, but also one of the greatest metal records to come out of the aughts. One of the greatest metal records probably ever. And yeah, super stoked for that. The tour list, I might have to open this up in a new, we're going to loop this, play, loop. Okay, so tour dates, let's see if we can open new. Oh, also celebrating 25 years of Wisconsin Death Trip, so probably going to get a lot of classic. Oh, that's super exciting. Let's open these are the dates. Let's just get to that. These are the dates starting right here-ish. Yeah, September 11th is where it starts in Iowa, runs all the way through October 25th in Boston, Massachusetts. It's going to be amazing. I am very, very much excited for this. So that is one of the announcements. We have a trailer. Where are we going next? Oh, we're a couple of announcements in the form of trailers. We have, let's go to doodly-doo. Trailer for, it was just right there, Grand Theft Auto 6. GTA 6 trailer. There we go. GTA 6 trailer that just dropped this morning. We're going to set this bad boy to loop as well. Loop. So Grand Theft Auto 6 has finally dropped like an actual gameplay trailer. We get to see at least a little bit of the story mode. So if you haven't watched this trailer yet, do so. This kind of feels like it's going to be the biggest game ever. And I don't necessarily mean that hyperbolically, like literally the size and scope of this game looks enormous, which makes sense that it's taken them something like a decade to get it to us. So yeah, once again, if you haven't watched this full trailer, then by all means go do so because it's pretty hype. And then we have another trailer in the form of Squid Game. Squid Game Part 3 got a trailer as well. This one is much shorter. And also, I don't know how much it's doing to hype you up for Season 3 of Squid Game. It feels like you should, like, we're gonna finish it just because like Season 2 was so anticlimactic. They really ended it before anything, I guess right as the good stuff was happening. So Season 3 is just gonna pick up there, and like, of course we're gonna finish because Season 2 sucked so much. So I just don't know how much hype this is building, being this nondescript. Like, it seems, I don't know. It seems like it's going to be lackluster as well, but only time will tell with that. Then we have Suno. This I have not yet checked out. I have seen some stuff about it. Let's pause this so I don't get distracted by the noise coming out of the headphones. We have Suno has dropped 4.5. I had planned originally on kind of playing around a little bit with 4.5 because, yeah, see, new model just dropped, more impressive. Upgrade now, I think, just means, yeah, we have beta for Pro. Oh, and 4 is still only in Pro. Interesting. But, I mean, if you go check out any of the other AI creators and use that do music AI creation, I'm sure they'll be doing plenty of extensive stuff with Suno. So far, from what I've heard, the lyrical side of it, like the LLM side of Suno, seems to be getting a little bit more creative, a little less obvious with its lyrics, like a little more abstract, which is kind of one of the things that makes music a difficult genre or a difficult form of art to do, is the lyric writing. Like, I don't know, a lot of the musicians that I have worked with, specifically the guys that I was most recently in a band with, like, lyrics is always the last thing we do because it takes the most brain power for a lot of us. I'm not saying every musician's like that. That's just the way the 5 of us work. And the previous bands that I was in, similar situation. So the LLM side that writes the lyrics, if you just automate Suno to write your lyrics, seems that it's getting a little bit better at that process. It still is pretty obviously AI, just less so these days. The sound quality, though, everyone calls the shimmer, which is really just the compression. It seems like their AI was learning through like 96K compression, which is garbage compression. It kind of makes everything kind of sound like it's underwater, which a lot of people have described as shimmer. That is pretty much gone with what I've heard from 4.5. Even with 4, it's super, super minimal. So very interesting. Getting closer, but not quite to where I predicted we would be by the end of the year with these AI music generators, but we are only in May, so we've got some time. And then we talked about that. I wanted to let's go read a couple of articles, and then we'll talk about the Thunderbolts movie. So if we go to Cosmic Book, we are only referencing Cosmic Book. First and foremost, fans might love it if they can handle the cringe. Oh boy, yeah, we'll get to that. Let's talk about a leak real quick. So apparently the entire cast has leaked for Doomsday. Let's get to new rumored cast. So Mark Ruffalo is kind of an obvious. Benedict Wong. These are the ones that have already been confirmed, is it not? Oh no, okay. That's the previously announced right there. So let's go through this. Mark Ruffalo, Benedict Wong, Brie Larson as Carol Danvers, again kind of obvious. Don Cheadle. We didn't get the Rhodey show, the Armor Wars show, so of course they have to do something for Don Cheadle's contract. Karen Gillan is kind of an obvious for Nebula. Jeremy Renner, Clint Barton. Iman Vellani for Kamala Khan, again still in the realm of duh. Denai Guerrera as Okoye, Tessa Thompson, Valkyrie, Ki Hu Kwan as Aurora Boros. So that one is kind of a little bit not expected. Tiana Paris, Monica Rambeau, yes. Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. Again, they kind of had to. Riri Williams, we still haven't got Armor Wars or Ironheart, so yeah, they got to do something. So Cheadle Gomez as America Chavez, that she's only been in the 2 movies now, so of course they still have a contract with these people. Sophia DiMartino, Tatiana Maslany. This is one that's going to have a lot of people really grumpy because the She-Hulk show sucked so bad. I honestly didn't even finish it. Yahya Abdul-Mateen as Wonder Man. Again, we have a Wonder Man show somewhere in development hell, so that this is another obvious one. Catherine Newton is Cassie Lang, don't care. B-15, Maria Rambeau, Lashana Lynch. Famke Jensen is Jean Grey. All right, now let's get into the good stuff. Here we go. So Famke Jensen as Jean Grey and Halle Berry as Storm. These two have been rumored for a long time. Halle Berry even to the point where people have claimed to have seen her on set. There have not been any pictures to confirm this, but that is the big heavy rumor. Phyla Mobius, Owen Wilson. That one is a little bit of a out of left field because honestly can't remember how he ended in Loki season 2, but Chris Pratt as Peter Quill. They told us that Peter Quill was going to be returning, and I think Pratt has alluded as such as well, so that's not really anything crazy. Clea, obviously Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury. Clea, that's a big one because that was kind of just the post-credit stinger, and Charlize Theron hasn't really spoke much about that. Benedict Cumberbatch as Stephen Strange. This one, I think, is actually incorrect. I'm pretty sure Doctor Strange is only going to be in Secret Wars, not in Doomsday. Haley Atwell, Peggy Carter, Chris Evans as Steve Rogers. This one is potentially the oldest rumor outside of RDJ returning as Iron Man. There are other rumors that we've heard that this version of Steve Rogers is going to be Hydra Cap. So definitely some really interesting stuff going on there. Bradley Cooper is Rocket Raccoon. That's an easy paycheck for him. So, of course, likewise with Vin Diesel, he's got to spend 6 hours in the booth to get all of those I am Groot. And Maria Bakalova as Cosmo. And then we have the entire rest of the previously announced cast. So, interesting. Again, I think some of those are incorrect. Some of those are only going to be in Secret Wars, but only time will tell exactly which ones. But the Thunderbolts box office is low expectations. We have another rumor that I wanted to talk about. Ryan Reynolds doing Deadpool X-Men movie, Uncanny X-Force potentially. So let's go straight up read this one. I've learned that Ryan Reynolds is in the very early stages of developing and writing a new Deadpool movie featuring X-Men characters. Fans are hoping it's an adaptation of Uncanny X-Force. Also, I think it's kind of funny that this image is still from a pirated version of Deadpool. Anyway, the news follows Deadpool and Wolverine making over $1.3 billion at the box office. Marvel has also confirmed Channing Tatum for Avengers Doomsday. Have they, though? I mean, I guess we didn't go over the previously announced cast, so maybe he is in there, and I just haven't been paying that close attention on while we've been in these weird supplemental weeks. Who Ryan Reynolds brought in to play Gambit. That's not how that worked, though. Channing Tatum has been trying to get the Gambit movie off the ground for almost as long as Reynolds was trying to get the Deadpool movie up off the ground. I don't think that the two are necessarily related, even though you can see some parallels there. I think that Ryan Reynolds met Channing in the middle for his Gambit part in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, but that just feels a little disingenuous to sell it that way. Anyway, also assumed that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman will be back as Deadpool and Wolverine for Avengers Doomsday and or Secret Wars. I think the key here is the and or. I think it's more likely for Secret Wars, especially if this rumor is to be believed. Like that, we have other Feige rumors that we'll talk about in a moment that seem to lend towards less overwhelming casts and rosters and movies going forward. But again, we'll get to that. Details about the new Deadpool movie. Following recent statements made by Ryan Reynolds, see below, it's said his new movie won't be a solo Deadpool movie. You could actually argue that about all of the films. No kidding. According to THR, Reynolds is exploring ideas for a Deadpool movie that will feature X-Men characters. Reynolds is said to be working on a treatment that for an ensemble film featuring, that it seems like broken English, featuring 3 or 4 X-Men characters. While Deadpool would of course appear, it's suggested Deadpool will only appear as more of a supporting character. This is the quote from Reynolds, or this is the quote from THR rather. Reynolds is said to believe that keeping his F-bomb wielding anti-hero more on the sidelines could allow for the X-Men characters to be used in unexpected ways. Reynolds has been open about every Deadpool movie needing a strong reason to exist, and it's possible this could provide the avenue he needs. I think there's definitely something to that, much in the same vein as a Beetlejuice movie. While Beetlejuice is the title character, he has the least amount of screen time. I think something similar there for Deadpool could be beneficial again to those things we're going to talk about for a second here in a minute with Kevin Feige. I also said the new Deadpool X-Men project is separate from the X-Men movie currently in development for the MCU that Hunger Games writer Michael Leslie is writing for Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios. This isn't even considered Marvel official, as Reynolds is said to be exploring ideas and tinkering with concepts, quote unquote, and working outside of Marvel. It's known he pitched over a dozen ideas to Marvel before landing on Deadpool and Wolverine. Marvel has to approve casting, according to THR. Also name drops Cynthia Erivo as a contender for Storm. Let's be honest, nobody wants that. That is true. That bit of info seems to be fan casting put in by the writer of the article. It said any casting and use of characters by Reynolds would need to be approved by Marvel. No kidding. That's kind of how that works. Deadpool works better solo. I kind of disagree. I am a big Deadpool fan, and some of my favorite books of his are solo books of his, but there's a lot of heavy lifting by the cameos and the secondary characters. Anyway, regarding recent statements made by Reynolds, he teased the future of the Merc with the Mouth, stating the character won't work if he is a member of the Avengers or the X-Men. Quote is, I like that he's isolated. If Deadpool becomes an Avenger or an X-Men, we're at the end. That's his wish fulfillment, and you can't give him that for a long time. Which is kind of, for a long time, how he worked in the comic books, so that's pretty insightful. Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld chimed in with news recommended doing Why does that not read right? Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld chimed in on the news and recommended doing X-Force, which Liefeld created. A version of the team also appeared in Deadpool 2 and quickly died. Just call it X-Force already, make it happen. Like when it was with Drew Goddard. Don't leave out Josh Brolin or Zazie. Folks want Cable and Domino back, Liefeld tweeted. Yeah, fans do want that. That's fair. Does this get into the Feige rumor? No. So we'll talk. I guess that's a Forbes thing. Let's see if we can just find that, shall we? Forbes.com. And then we'll search Kevin Feige, because this comes from Forbes. It is all but confirmed to be real. What's the innovation, leadership, lifestyle? Let's say all not. May 1st. What the heck is going on, man? Where is it? I think this might be it. It looks like it might be it. So, if nothing else, we can use this as visuals. So, the word is that, according to Forbes' reporting, and I guess Wall Street Journal report dives into what happened, focusing on the architect of MCU, Kevin Feige. The long and the short of it is, so building up to Endgame, Kevin Feige kind of spent all of his energy on those first 3 phases of the MCU. And then everything that has happened since Endgame, he has not really been there for to the same degree. He's been far more stretched out. He's been far more spread across way more projects than he was before, as kind of was mandated by Disney. When Feige took over basically all of Marvel, at first it was just the action stuff, or the movie stuff, and then it was the TV stuff, and then to a certain degree, he's also over the comic book side of things as well. That has definitely spread him so thin that, according to the report, and this may or may not be the actual article, we're not going to read it, because I've heard so many reports on it right now, I could probably tell it to you in my sleep. According to the report, the people who were in charge of the individual movies were not able to get to Feige in order to approve things in advance. They would have meetings, so they would literally have to run him down in the halls to find him and get him to talk about whatever project they were working on. When it would come time for the approval part of the process before the deadline for when they had to go into production on a movie, oftentimes Feige would say, no, none of this works. This is, so they created another team of producers, of executives, who at this point have all been either fired or have bowed out. I forget exactly what their nickname was, but they were kind of the second line before you get to Feige, and they were the ones who kind of constructed the details and then disseminated what needed to happen in movies from there. But that still wasn't working because Feige was still stopping a lot of the things they were trying to implement into the movies, and so that led to a lot of disjointed processes in the production of the movies, and that is how Forbes explains the entirety of Phase 4 effectively. And now, again, according to this article, or an article by Forbes, Feige is refocusing coming into this next phase, coming into this next build-up into another set of Avengers movies, starting with whatever happens after Thunderbolts, because Thunderbolts is one that they're saying is not him being focused. This is kind of the last of the movies where he was minimally involved. It sounds like, because think about who's reporting on this. Josh from Den of Nerds made this point very clear as well. Think about who's reporting on this. This comes from Forbes, and their source is a Wall Street Journal report, neither of which have spoken with Feige directly. They have only spoken with, I believe, their unnamed sources, so they're anonymous sources who work inside of Disney Marvel. So it really could be anyone, and not everyone really knows what's going on. But also, it's their target audience is not the people who really care about the substance of these movies. Their target audience is more the people who care about the monetary outcome of these movies. So if they're trying to assure the money hands that these movies are going to do well with the fans, they're just trying to assure people that are going to invest in the films to give them more money, right? So it does seem a little bit like they're just pandering to that subset. So yeah, that's big rumor. Again, none of this is confirmable unless you work at Disney, and if you work at Disney, then you have an NDA and you can't talk about it. So that's where we are with that one. Yeah, shut up. Oh, hey, maybe this is what we're talking about. The new Avengers. We're going to talk about that in a moment. So the idea to make the Thunderbolts New Avengers came from the head of Marvel, Kevin Feige. If you have been stuck on a rock, change the title to New Avengers. They did do that just recently. New posters released, billboards updated, Marvel's new videos and social medias all say New Avengers. Spoilers, the New Avengers came about at the end of Thunderbolts. It doesn't have anything to do with the movie and really comes into play with the post-credit scene. Teases the Fantastic Four. Where it goes from there, well, we'll only know in Avengers Doomsday. Following the rebrand and retitle, New Avengers bombs at the box office on Monday. Oh no. This movie was not that bad. All right, I think we might just get into this now. Let's see. Thunderbolts, now New Avengers bombs again on Monday. John Wick 5. Yeah, I don't care about John Wick 5 right now. So, yeah, let's get into this. Let's talk about Thunderbolts / New Avengers, shall we? Because this is just the thing that we have to do at this point. So I have thoughts. I have written down thoughts. We're going to do the written down thoughts, but it's going to take me a second to kind of collect these, so I do apologize. So, all right. So first and foremost, let's talk about the rebrand, because as is evident in this picture here, making sure that it is coming through. There we go. Cool. As is evident here, the asterisk that has been part of the marketing since the marketing began, it used to say Thunderbolts with an asterisk. Now it says asterisk New Avengers, and you can see that it's been torn away to reveal New Avengers, where once it was presumably said the Thunderbolts. This has apparently been planned in the marketing since they actually started running the campaign. I don't know if it was planned from Jump Street, but it again, you knew something goofy was going to come because of that stupid asterisk. Desperate for a marketing gimmick, blah, 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 blah. Looks like all of them are going to have that torn kind of effect. as this was stated in the beginning of this article, it really doesn't factor into the movie at all until the last 30 seconds of the actual movie, and then again at the post-credit scene. Not even the mid-credit stinger, but the actual post-credit scene, the very, very end of the movie. That is the only time this really sets anything up going forward, and that is just going to be likely some sort of subplot that happens throughout the course of the Rising action into Doomsday, and then possibly lingers through into Secret Wars. It's inconsequential. These are, because I went and saw the movie with my dad, these are definitely B-list characters at best. I guess Bucky's probably the only one who's actually B-list. I would say that the rest of them are even kind of C-list in the grand scheme of things. Normies don't recognize these people outside of this movie. So, this is not exactly the Avengers that anyone is going to lay claim to. The actual movie itself... Let's talk about the movie itself. First and foremost, I do want to say I had fun with the movie. There is some stuff in there that feels, spoiler alert as well, if you haven't seen it and you care about such things, why are you watching this video? But that out of the way, I think there's certain elements of this movie that shows that they obviously realize that they need to course correct. Are they enough of a course correct to move forward with? Yeah, maybe. Probably not, but there's just the very first signs in the actual films that we watch that these course corrections are happening. Most namely, we have... Can I get to... Let's play with the new toy. I got a new toy in OBS. We're using the wrong tool. Nope. Brush. Okay. All right. So very, very specifically, let's make this bigger. Very specifically, if you look at the balance on here, you'll see, first and foremost, Taskmaster. There's a reason why Taskmaster's mask is on in all of the promos, and nobody else who wears a mask is wearing their mask in any of the promos. Red Guardian, what is his name? Agent. I can't think of his name. And Ghost as well. Where is she? Ghost right there. Wee, Ghost. So those three characters wear masks. It's going to drive me... His freaking name is going to drive me crazy. Agent, U.S. Agent? Is that right? They're not wearing their masks. Taskmaster is wearing her mask because that is all you really see of her. She dies in the very beginning of the movie. And nobody cares. Even if you care about spoilers, if I were to tell you that, you're not going to care because A, it happens, like I said, in the very beginning of the movie, and B, that's not really Taskmaster. That's not the character that we know from the comic books. So the other also what we're looking at here, I'm going to get this squared a little bit better so we can see it. But if you look at the team, you see that we have Yelena and Ghost and Taskmaster, that's the females. And then we have Bucky, U.S. Agent, and the Red Guardian are males. So we have a balanced team, which is a little bit of something as far as genders go, but they don't sidestep any of the male characters in order to highlight any of the female characters. Yelena is definitely the focus of this movie. She is the lead, if you will, which is fine because they have already established her in previous movies as, you've seen her struggle. A little bit of Mary Sue, but really not at all. To such a minor degree that it's definitely forgivable. I think we should pull up trailer. Let's pull up the trailer, shall we? Let's set this back down to 70, and then we go to here, and we go to here. Thunderbolts Marvel trailer. And we will just set this to loop, shall we? Okay, let's get back to the discussion. Anyway, so I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah. So we have a balanced team. We still have a female lead, which again is whatever because it works. The thing that really doesn't work is what they do with Sentry. They spend half of the movie building up to some mysterious reveal, which really, if you've read the books and you see the introduction of Bob, then you're like, oh, I get it. Okay, he's going to be Sentry, isn't he? And then you see the Sentry logo and you see Project Sentry and blah, blah, blah. So it really doesn't come as much of a surprise as maybe they were thinking it was going to. But again, all forgivable things. The thing that's kind of unforgivable about this is what they finally do with Sentry. Once he becomes aware of his powers and his abilities, like, first of all, it kind of happens instantaneously. You have one scene where he finds out he has powers, which is before the Sentry reveal. Then you get the Sentry reveal like 3 or 4 scenes later, and all you get for character development between there is one scene where what's her name, Julie Louis-Dreyfus's character is offering to teach him how to use his abilities. But this is all the span in movie is all roughly the span of maybe a couple of days, but it feels like it's all the same day. Like, there's no dialogue that separates anything. There's no montage that gives you any sort of feel of the passage of time. There's no anything that makes it apparent that any sort of significant amount of time has passed. So at the very most, there were a couple of days where he's learning how to use his powers, and then he's just all-powerful Sentry, which was really cool to see in the movie, to see Sentry like you would think a live-action version of Sentry would be for a scene. Literally a scene. They activate the kill switch in his head, and the darkness takes over, and then he becomes Void. All of these things could have taken up a movie, or at least a subplot. For two of these could have been subplots in a movie unto themselves, or a movie unto themselves, and it would have worked much, much better. Building up to creating Sentry as this new villain would have been one movie. By the end of that movie, you see that he is basically a god, and hit the kill switch, and that's how the movie ends. And then in the next movie, we see that the kill switch doesn't kill him. It just does something to unlock the void that they alluded to in the previous movie, at the beginning of the previous movie, which was also rather heavy-handed, but again, forgivable until you get to the Sentry scene. And then the whole second movie is them figuring out what the hell Void is, that it is actually Sentry, and then how to defeat Void. So you could have had an action sequence at the end of the first movie with them battling Sentry, and then you could have had the psychological sequence that we actually got at the end of the Thunderbolts movie, at the end of the second movie, to defeat Void. Would have worked so much better. What we got was all of that in not even just one movie, but all of that in 2 scenes. I guess we could probably call it maybe 3 or 4 scenes. But the Sentry, all of the Sentry stuff happens in one scene. And then the Void, you get an introductory scene to who the Void is. You see how he's affecting New York City and potentially going to spread past that. And then you see them inside his head because Yelena steps into the Shadow Realm. And also, I don't understand why it's so confusing for some people, because, again, watching the Nerd Vengers, Josh from the Den of Nerds, watching him discuss, like, the confusing bits of the movie. I didn't know that was confusing. Like, these movies are made for normies. They're kind of spoon-feeding you everything that they want you to know, in that there is a brief moment where we think Void might be killing basically everybody who comes into contact with the dark essence of who Void is, or what Void is, I guess, because he's just ghosting people, turning them into shadows, and then those shadows kind of start to drift away. So we're thinking that he's killing people, and then you see him do it to a little girl, and she becomes a shadow and drifts away, and you go, wait a minute, is this just really dark? Did Disney go super dark? And then you see Yelena step into the Shadow Realm and go, nope, none of these people are dead. As soon as she does that, you know that is not the case. So what is actually the case, the reveal instantaneously after she steps in, well, maybe not instantaneously, there's a little bit of dialogue between the other Thunderbolts as to what Yelena just did. Did she commit suicide? Is she going into some sort of alternate universe? They're debating these things, and then it cuts to her inside of a house where Bob is, and she starts talking to Bob, and Bob acknowledges that there is a different presence known as the Void that is controlling his body, right? So we were going somewhere with that, and then my ADD just totally derailed the conversation. But yeah, so we get the psychological thing, because the whole time we get this, we're talking about confusing, right? So why is this confusing? They give us that Bob is not mentally healthy. He joined the program the Sentry program that created him as Sentry. He joined the program, and when they did his psychological evaluation, they noted that he has delusions of grandeur, he has memory loss, he has a number of things wrong. I think one of those things might have even been a certain element of schizophrenia, if I'm remembering correctly. I wasn't taking notes in the movie because that's rude, so I don't remember that explicitly, but there's a laundry list of like psychological issues that he has. So when you amplify those by making him into the Sentry, it's going to get worse. So where the confusion comes from as to why he lost his memory, like they kind of planted that seed at the beginning of the middle of the movie. Why he lost his memory after they come out of it. Why his mental state fractured when he got this power, because you just gave a super mentally unstable person the powers of a god. That's going to mess somebody's brain up, specifically somebody with these mental ailments. And the only thing I think that was confusing even slightly was, is he actually killing all of these people? But then again, once you see him do it to a little girl, you know for a fact that he is not killing all of these people. So yeah, I don't know why that was so confusing, and it was really cool to see the struggle. Going back to good things about the movie, it's really cool to see the struggle while they're inside his head, because eventually the other Thunderbolts join inside his head, or inside the alternate universe where Bob is battling with Void. It's really cool to see all of the sudden Bob starts to kind of sort of gain control of his consciousness again while he's battling Void, but then he's legitimately battling, like physically fighting this entity, and that's what the entity wants. So he is getting sucked into Void, and he's, the emotional payoff of you're not alone, and all of these things that they're kind of setting up throughout the course of the movie of all of these characters are lone wolf characters. They do all of these things by themselves, but now they're a team. So like all of the subplots kind of rise to the surface here. And when they come out of it, when he defeats Void, he loses his memory. Again, something that they kind of planted the seeds for. So I feel like at this point, I'm kind of rambling. Again, I still had fun. I still think it's worth a watch. It's hard to justify a $20 movie ticket, though, for it. So, I mean, if you can get it at a discount theater, that's going to be the best way. I do think it's worth it to see it on a big screen, because just usually that's a better cinema going experience anyway. But again, if it's IMAX, I feel like that's not necessarily a thing that needs to happen for this movie. Or even the XD theaters at the Cinemarks, like that's kind of an expensive ticket as well that I couldn't justify the price tag for. If you can get in for $10 or less, that would be an ideal price tag for this movie. But I do think that seeing it in the theaters will be cathartic. Will definitely have a good payoff for a good number of people. It's a fun movie. The final conflict could have been stretched out a little bit longer. I honestly could have been stretched out for a whole nother movie, but we've already discussed that. So yeah, I would say medium recommend. I think it's a fun movie to see in theaters, but not at full price. Where else are we going for this episode? Oh, also, before we step away from this, speaking of the post-credit scene, let's talk about the post-credit scene for Thunderbolts. Post-credit scene was not filmed, was not shot by the director of the rest of the movie. It was shot on set for Avengers Doomsday. And the build-up, the first half of the scene is kind of pointless. Like, they are kind of setting the stage for maybe something to happen as far as like subplot shenanigans going forward in the Avengers movies between Sam and Bucky, but that again kind of is fairly irrelevant to the major plot points that are heading our direction. The big reveal is the Fantastic Four spaceship coming into it. It's recognized by the computer as an interdimensional ship, so it's coming from another dimension. It's coming from another multiverse, if you will, coming from somewhere else in the multiverse. And the implication of what the hell that means is kind of cool to think about, because it's almost confirming a lot of the rumors that we've been talking about on the channel, because we know that by the end of, new rumor that has developed since we did our last proper episode for the Fantastic Four movie is that the Fantastic Four movie will end on a happy note. It's not going to end with the demise of their planet, though the demise of their planet that they're living on, their version of Earth, is still in the cards. It's just going to happen in a different movie, potentially off screen to a certain degree, and then they're going to travel the multiverse to get to a viable universe, the 616 apparently, as evidenced by this end screen, the post-credit scene here. So really cool there. It doesn't really reveal much else, but there are a couple of other implications that I feel like other people have gotten into much better than I. So if you go check out the Den of Nerds, Josh does some really good breakdowns of the rumors over there. He's actually one of the reporters that I get sources from when sourcing for the show. So yeah, that's the post-credit scene. I think is the only thing that really has greater implications outside of this movie, and I kind of don't know how I feel about that yet. So I don't think it's great, but I just don't know how bad it really is. Yeah, that's where I think we're going to be stepping away from the Thunderbolts movie. There are no more news articles. We can pause this guy so it stops distracting. No more news articles to read. Yeah, I think that is where we're going to call this an episode, nerds. So once again, I do appreciate all of you for joining. Let's get over here to the fancy. Before we do any of the sign-off stuff, I would like to once again thank Dubby for being the channel partner. He is the website. Code Generally Nerdy at checkout will get you 10% off. It is an American company, so there are no tariffs on the things that you can get from Dubby, so go check them out. Also, big push this, do I not I still don't have it. I will just insert it. Also, big push for merch. The April Nerd sale, I believe, is still active. So you can go get your special edition gaming nerd t-shirt up on the website. It links down in the description, just because I haven't paid for the URL still, because I don't have the money. But yeah, still super proud of the designs that I have up in the store. We have the special monthly design up still from April, so go check that out. Code April Nerd will get you 10% off there. And all of that being said, this is where we're going to finally sign off. I appreciate all of you nerds. Thank you very much for putting up with these supplemental episodes. We will be coming back to regular episodes next week. I'm 90% certain, barring an act of God, it would seem. Or an act of the day job. So thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.